So this is the lecture on lymphatic system. Lymphatic system, as I had told you when I was talking about the cardiovascular system, it is part of the cardiovascular system. Okay, and this lymphatic system, we'll see how it is part of the cardiovascular system. Before we go into that, we should know the lymphatic system is made up of lymphatic organs, then lymph nodes, lymphatic ducts, as well as the lymphatic vessels. Okay, so the lymphatic organs will be the primarily will be the thymus, which is present in the neck here. Then we have the spleen, which will be in the abdomen. Then the tonsils, which are around the oral cavity. So here will be the tonsils, thymus, spleen, and the palatine tonsils. So these are the lymphatic organs. Apart from that, in the all the parts of the body, the lymph nodes will be present everywhere, which form the part of the lymphatic system. Then these, just like the cardiovascular system has vessels, these will also have lymphatic vessels, and the larger of those vessels will be called as the lymphatic ducts. Okay, so these are the components of the lymphatic system that make and move the lymph from the tissue to the bloodstream. Okay, so this will move not the blood, even though it is said to be part of the cardiovascular system, but the fluid passing through this lymphatic system is not called as blood, even though it is one of the component of the blood, but it is not called as the blood, but it is called as the lymph. It is called as lymph. So lymph is the fluid which will be flowing through that. Okay. So this will pass from tissue to tissue and back to it will flow back to the bloodstream. How it will, we'll see later. The lymphatic system is major part of the body's immune system. Why it is so important, this lymphatic system? Because it is one of the very important component of the body's immune system, the defensive mechanism, which will help in fighting the bacteria, the viruses, including the COVID-19 and other all kind of diseases are fought by this immune system. So the immune system should be very much well qualified to fight these bacteria and viruses. So this picture shows you how the lymphatic system is part of the cardiovascular system. As you remember, cardiovascular system begins from the right atrium, where the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava will be flowing the deoxygenated blood or impure blood. From there, it passes to the right ventricle. Then it will go to the pulmonary trunk. From there, it goes for purification in the lungs, and the oxygenated blood will come back to the left atrium, and from there it goes to the left ventricle, and from there it is pumped into the aorta to all the parts of the body. If you remember, today we had discussed this, how the cardiovascular system will be functioning. So this blood will go from large arteries to medium sized artery to small arteries, and those goes to smaller vessels. These are called as the arterioles. Okay, so arteries are the large artery, medium sized arteries, small arteries, and the arterioles. Smallest of the arteries are called as arterioles. From there, the blood will go back into the smallest veins called as venules, and from there to me a small size vein, medium size, large size, and finally they bring back the deoxygenated blood to the heart. So here, in this level, when the smallest arterioles are there, then they branch into smallest vessels called as capillaries, where the actual exchange of gases will take place between the cells and the blood. So during this exchange, small quantity of fluid from the this blood will flow into the outside the blood vessels. This is called as the tissue fluid. Tissue fluid. Okay, it is the part of the component of the plasma which will flow into the tissues and cells called as tissue fluid. Most of it returns back into the venous system, 90%, but remaining 10 to 15% will remain outside and it flows through a separate channel. Finally, back it will drain back into the venous blood, because if not every time, if there is a decrease in the blood for 10 to 15%, then there will be total loss of blood. So to prevent it, this leak tissue fluid will flow through a separate channel called as the lymphatic vessel, and finally it will go back into the, again back to the, from it comes from the blood and flows back into the blood. So that's why it is called as the part of the lymphatic system. So it is one of the part of the lymphatic, because this fluid is coming from the cardiovascular system from the blood and flow as tissue fluid through a separate channel. Finally, it drains back into the venous system. Okay, so there is no loss of any blood here. Okay, so this separate channel is called as the lymphatic system. So these lymphatic system will have the vessels, lymphatic, just like the blood vessels are there, lymphatic vessels. Then there are larger vessels called as lymphatic trunks. Then we have in between, you can see here, these are the lymph nodes, where the this tissue fluid, which has bacteria, viruses, and other dead cells and other things, are filtered by these lymph nodes, and finally it is drained back into the circulation. So this is the function of the lymphatic system, that it cleans all the bacteria, viruses, dead tissue, everything through the lymph nodes, and finally drains back into the circulatory system. So this is part of the circulatory system. Okay, so this is called as lymph system. So the lymphatic system will have trunks and ducts. Okay, the lymphatic system will have trunks. The larger vessels are called as trunks, and the largest will be called as ducts. So the large vessels are called as the jugular, subclavian, bronchomediastinal, intestinal, as well as the lumbar. And the largest of these trunks will be called as the right lymphatic duct and the thoracic. There are two important. Okay, one is the right lymphatic duct and the thoracic duct. Most of the vessels are not seen by the naked eye. They are so small that they are not seen. Except these two, right lymphatic duct and the thoracic duct, can be easily seen. Okay. So the right lymphatic duct will drain into the junction between the right subclavian as well as the right interjugular vein, and thoracic duct will be draining into the left subclavian vein and the left interjugular vein. Begins from the cisterna chyli and drains most of the body. Let's see how it looks. They look. Okay. Later I will show you how this. If you see here, so this is the thoracic duct here, draining on the left side, and the right side we have a small vessel. This is called as the right lymphatic duct. These are the only two ducts which can be seen. Okay, all other ducts are very small. If you see here, this is the same thoracic duct passing from the right side and going to the left side. So it begins from the cisterna chyli in the abdomen. This is the cisterna chyli, okay, which is in the abdomen. So it is beginning point, starting point of the thoracic duct is from the abdomen as cisterna chyli, and goes all the way and opens at this junction. Okay, so the plasma from the capillaries, as I said, this fluid which is flowing outside is the plasma from the capillaries, pass out of the interstitial space, as you can see here. Okay, to supply the cells with oxygen as well as nutrition and removal of the carbon dioxide and waste products. So that's why the plasma from the blood will flow into the cells and tissues, so that there is exchange of gases as well as the waste products are removed. 85% of the plasma that moved out of the capillaries return back to the capillaries, while remaining 15% return to the blood circulation through the lymphatic vessels in the form of lymph. So as I said, the fluid which leaks out will go back into the circulation, 85%. Remaining 10 to 15% will flow through a separate channel called as the lymphatic channel. So remaining 50% return to the blood circulation. Finally, it has to return to the blood circulation through a lymphatic, a separate channel called as the lymphatic channel. Okay. So, and it will be not called as blood, but it is called as lymph, because it doesn't have all the components. It doesn't have the RBC, WBC. Only the plasma will be present. So lymph is clear watery fluid. So it is not like the blood, even though it is component. So like blood, it is not red, but it is clear watery fluid because it is only the plasma. Similar in composition to the plasma. Now coming to the functions of the lymph. Okay, why the lymph will flow as a separate channel and what's the use? Okay, one is it maintains blood vessel. As I said, every time there is leak of 10 to 15%, the blood will start decreasing. So this fluid will go back into the circulation. So there is maintenance of blood volume. So the volume of blood is not reduced by this system. Okay, so transport the plasma protein that seep out of the blood capillaries back into the bloodstream. That is the main function of the lymph. Okay, the second is elimination. What does it eliminate? It carries away the large particles, example bacteria and cell debris from the damaged tissues, which can then be filtered out and destroyed by the lymph nodes. As you can see here, when it flows, it will have lymph nodes in this channel. So here it will be filtered. All the dead cells as well as the dead tissues are removed in this process. Third is it adds immunity. How? The lymph contains lymph nodes, lymphocytes, which circulate in the lymphatic system. So these lymph nodes not only clear the fluid of the dead cells and tissues, but add the important lymphocytes which are present in the lymph nodes. They will add the lymphocytes, so it helps in the immunity. Lymphocytes are very important for the immunity. Whenever there is a fight against bacteria and viruses, these lymphocytes will play a role. So that's why it increases the immunity. And fourthly, absorption of fatty acids. Fat absorbed into the lymphatic give the lymph a milky appearance, now called as chyle. Especially coming from the abdomen will have nutrients and fats which are absorbed. It will flow through this lymph. Okay, and it is uh, drained into the liver where it is metabolized and then flow back. So when it is coming from the abdomen, usually it will be milky appearance. I said it is clear fluid. Here, if you see, lymph is clear fluid. But the part which is coming from the abdomen, because it contains fat absorbed, so it will be milky in appearance. So that part of the lymph is called as chyle, okay, which is coming from the abdomen. So these are some of the functions of the lymph. One is it maintains the blood volume without any reduction in the volume. Second is elimination. The third is immunity, and the fourth is absorption of the fatty acids. Now coming to the lymphatic vessels. So lymphatic vessels, just like the blood vessels, these are also, they look very similar to that of the veins with thin wall, but they are so small that they cannot be seen by the naked eyes. Okay, so the lymphatic vessels begin from the spaces between the cells and end in the venous system. Okay, so this is uh, ending into the blood circulation. So they begin from this between the cells and end in the blood circulation. Lymphatic vessels, like veins, have valves. Just like the veins have valves, arteries don't have valves, but the veins have valves, which allow unidirectional flow. Today, if you remember, even in the heart, we saw valves. What is the function of the valve? They allow only one directional flow of blood. So if there is reverse flow, it will close. Similarly, even in veins, there will be valves. Similarly, even in the lymphatics, there are valves which allow unidirectional flow. So collect into the main trunk. All these lymphatic vessels finally join together to form the largest vessel, that is the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct. As I said, these are the two ducts which can be seen by the naked eyes. All others are so small that you cannot see. So the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct. Okay, so as you saw before, so this is the thoracic duct. So here also you can see beginning from the cisterna chyli, this is the thoracic duct, and on the right side there is a very small duct. This is called as the right lymphatic duct. Right lymphatic duct. Here also if you see, this is the right lymphatic duct. Okay. So the thoracic duct, it is a dilated lymph channel about 40 centimeters long. It is a long channel. If you can see here, starting from the abdomen, goes all the way into thorax. and enters the neck in the neck. Okay. So it is a dilated lymph channel about 40 centimeters long. It arises from the sac called as the cisterna chyli, which lies in front of the bodies of the first two lumbar vertebrae. You see here, this is begins from the cisterna chyli in the abdomen, in front of the lumbar vertebrae, the first two lumbar under the diaphragm, below the diaphragm, in the abdomen, below the diaphragm. Here will be the thoracic duct. It opens into the left subclavian vein. It goes all the way into the thorax and goes into the neck, and it opens at the junction between the left subclavian as well as the left interjugular vein. So in between the two veins, it will open into the venous system. Okay. So it drains lymph from both the legs, the pelvis, abdominal cavity, and left half of the thorax, head and neck, and the left arm. If you see, this thoracic duct is the largest duct. So this will drain most of the parts of the body, including both the lower limbs. This is the pelvis, abdomen, then the left side of the thorax, left upper limb, as well as the left head and neck. Only this part is remaining. Other all the parts are drained by this thoracic duct. So thoracic duct is the largest duct which drains all the parts except the right thoracic part, right upper limb, as well as the right side of the head and neck. Okay, so what which duct will drain this part? So this is drained by the right lymphatic duct. This is a dilated lymph vessel about 1 centimeter long, lies in the root of the neck as we saw before here on the right side of the neck, just 1 centimeter long. This is 40 centimeter, but this is only 1 centimeter long. Opens into the right subclavian vein, as I said, junction between the right subclavian and the right interjugular. Here it is opening. Okay. It drains lymph from the right half of the thorax, head and neck, and the right arm. So if you see here, this right lymphatic drains the right thorax, right upper limb, as well as the right head and neck. Only these three parts. The remaining all parts are drained by the thoracic duct. So thoracic duct is the largest of among the ducts. Okay. Now coming to the lymph nodes. Lymph nodes. So lymph node is an oval-shaped organ of the lymphatic system distributed widely throughout the body, as we saw before. So these are the channels. So these are the lymph nodes here, everywhere which are present. They are widely distributed. What is their function? They filter the lymph as well as add the lymphocyte. So these are the lymph nodes. Okay. So they are all shaped. If you see the shape, they will be all shaped lymphatic system and distributed widely throughout the body. So this is the distribution where they are present. Okay. They filter. What's the function? They filter the lymph. As I said before, it will clean the lymph. So there are two types of lymph nodes. One are called as the palpable lymph nodes, which we can feel, touch, okay, when they are enlarged. But there are the second type, which are called as the non-palpable, palpable as well as non-palpable. Palpable means when they are enlarged, we can feel. Normally, no lymph node is felt, except when they are enlarged because of infection or inflammation, something else. So when they are enlarged, we can feel them. This is called as palpable. There are other which cannot be felt even if they are enlarged. That is called as the non-palpable. So the palpable lymph nodes are cervical, axillary, inguinal, and epitrochlear as well as popliteal. And non-palpable will be mediastinal, mesenteric, and the paraaortic. If you see this picture, the dark green colored all are the palpable. This side all are the palpable lymph nodes. Okay, these are green colored structures. Those are which are non-palpable are here. Okay, which are transparent. Okay, these are shown on the other side. Okay, so these are some of the lymph nodes. So which are the palpable? One is the cervical in the neck. Whenever there are anything in the neck, it is called as cervical. So the vertebrae are also called as cervical vertebrae. Similarly, the lymph nodes are called as the cervical lymph nodes. Cervical lymph nodes. Okay. So there are different types of cervical lymph nodes. Then we have the here in the axilla. So these are the axillary lymph nodes. Axillary. Then we have the epitrochlear. Here it is the epitrochlear. Then these are very important lymph nodes. These are called as inguinal. Then popliteal behind, not in the front. popliteal fossa is behind the knee. So there you can see the popliteal limb node. So these are some of the important: cervical, axillary, then inguinal, and popliteal. These are the palpable. Which are non-palpable, which are shown transparent. These are the mediastinal here. Then we have the mesenteric, then aortic, pre, para, aortic, all these are the around the aorta. So this aorta here, around the aorta there are different. Okay. So including the mesenteric, okay. As well as here we have the mediastinal. These are non-palpable lymph nodes. So there are two types of lymph nodes, palpable and non-palpable. Palpable are cervical in the neck, axillary in the axilla, inguinal, epitrochlear and popliteal. Non-palpable will be mediastinal, mesenteric and the para-aortic. Now coming to the functions of the lymph nodes, as we have already discussed before, it helps in filtering or cleaning of the lymph as well as the phagocytosis. Means if there are any dead microbes, bacteria, viruses or the dead tissue, they'll be engulfed, eaten by the specific cells. So these are that process called as phagocytosis. Okay, of the microbes. Phagocytosis of the microbes means bacteria, viruses, as well as damaged tissue cells. All are phagocytes. So it helps in filtering as well as the phagocytosis, as well as proliferation of the lymph nodes, adding of the lymphocytes, which will help in the immunity. As we said before, lymphocytes are very important for the immunity. So there will be increase in the number of lymphocytes. It is called as proliferation of the lymphocytes. Now, if you want to see the structure of these lymph nodes, which I said will be the cervical, the axillary, epitrochlear, inguinal, popliteal. So, what is the shape of this lymph node? This is how it looks like, each lymph node. So, the structure of the lymph node, how they look like. Okay. So, each lymph node, if you study, it will have an outer capsule. This is the capsule outside. Capsule we have outside. This is called as the outer capsule. Outer capsule of the fibrous tissue, which dips down into the node forming the trabecula. If you see here, this capsule will give rise to trabeculae. These are trabeculae, which are coming from the capsule inside. Okay. So this will divide the whole of the lymph nodes into lobules. Lobes and lobules. Inside this region is called as one lobule. So this fibrous capsule will give rise to septa down into the node forming trabecula. These are trabeculae, and then it divides the whole lymph nodes into lobules. The main substance of the node consists of the reticular and lymphatic tissue. You see there are two types of cells, tissue. One is the reticular tissue here, and here these are the lymphatic tissue. Here is the lymphatic tissue, aggregation of lymphatic tissue, and here is the reticular network. So reticulars and the lymphatic tissue containing the lymphocytes and macrophages. Within this lymphatic tissue will be the lymphocytes. All these are the aggregation of lymphocytes as well as the macrophages, which helps in the engulfing of the foreign bacteria, viruses, eating of the for this macrophages will eat up the all the bacteria, viruses, dead cells. That is called as phagocytosis. So 4 or 5 afferent lymph vessels may enter the lymph node. If you see here, these are afferent. Afferent means which vessels which are bringing the lymph from different parts of the body for filtration. So these are called afferent. So there are 4 to 5 afferent lymph vessels which enter the lymph node, and only one efferent vessel leaves. So all these lymph vessels are entering into the lymph node, and only one will leave, where the filtered fluid will come out. Filtered lymph will come through this. All other lymph nodes are bringing the lymph for filtration here. All will enter here, get filtered, and one will leave. This is called as efferent. Afferent means towards the lymph node. Efferent means away from the lymph node. Okay. So only one efferent will be there, and many efferents. Okay. Each node has a concave surface called the hilum. So where it leaves, this part is called as the hilum. Any organ which where the vessels will be entering or leaving, that will be called as the uh, uh, so wherever the vessels are leaving or entering, that is called as hilum. Okay, so similarly the lymph node also has an hilum where the efferent vessel is building, where an artery enters and the vein and the efferent vessels will leave. So artery and the vein will enter through this as well as the efferent vessel will leave. So such part, in any organ we have an hilum where the arteries and veins will be entering or coming out. Okay, similarly, even the lymph node has the hilum. Now, after the lymph node, the second important lymphatic organ is the spleen. Spleen. So, spleen, as we saw, it is present in the abdomen, a very important organ. So, it is present in the left hypochondrium, means left side of the abdomen, of the abdominal cavity. Usually, the size is almost 12 centimeters long and 7 centimeters wide and 2.5 centimeters thick. This is the size of the spleen. 12 centimeters long, 7 centimeter wide, and 2.5 centimeter thick. And it is about 200 grams. 200 grams. Weight is almost 200 grams. So the structure is very similar to that of the lymph node. If you see here, so this is also having a capsule outside. So just like the lymph node, so here also capsule and there are trabecules, which will divide the whole of the spleen into lobes and lobules. So enclosed by a fibroelastic capsule that dips into the organ forming the trabeculae here. Okay. The cellular material consists of the lymphocytes and macrophages. Just like the lymph nodes here also, the cellular material will contain the lymphocytes and macrophages. The structures entering and leaving the spleen at the hilum. Similarly, in case of the, just like the in case of the lymph node, here also there is hilum where the artery is entering and the vein is leaving and the lymphatic vessels are also leaving and all the structures. So any organ where the vessels is entering or coming out, that part is called as the hilum. So similarly, the spleen also has an hilum. So what are the structures entering or coming out? One is the splenic artery. If you see here, this is the splenic artery. A branch of the celiac artery will supply this spleen. Then the splenic vein. If you see here, this is the splenic vein, which is a tributary of the portal vein. Okay. Then the lymphatic vessel, efferent only. If you see here, the lymph vessels are also present. Along with even the nerves will also be present here. So all the structures at the hilum will be present. Artery, vein, nerve, lymphatic vessels, everything. So this is how the spleen will look like. Okay. And this is the hilum where the artery is entering and the vein is coming out. So this is called as the hilum of the spleen. So what is the function of the spleen? Just like the lymph node, this also has very important functions like the phagocytosis. I said phagocytosis means eating, engulfing of the bacteria, viruses, or the dead cells. Okay. Then storage of blood. The spleen also acts as a storage of blood. Almost contains always 350 ml of blood. Okay, it always contains 350 ml of blood. It can rapidly return the large volume of this volume to the circulation in case of the hemorrhage. If there is any bleeding and there is loss of blood, almost 350 ml of the blood can be returned to the spleen. If it is more, then it cannot compensate. But if it is less or 350 ml up to that, the spleen can contribute to the loss. Okay. Then it also helps in the immune response, just like the lymph nodes. This also adds the lymphocytes. Okay, so which helps in the immune response, as well as in case of children, this also helps in the erythropoiesis, production of the blood vessels, blood cells. That is called as the erythropoiesis, production of the RBCs. Okay, in the initial stages of the life. So in case of the uh, fetuses, so this spleen helps in the production of the RBCs, that is called erythropoiesis. So these are some of the functions of the spleen. One is phagocytosis, storage of blood, immune response, as well as the erythropoiesis. The next organ is called as the thymus. Thymus is present in the neck, just below the thyroid gland. So it looks like very similar to that of the thyroid. So this is the thyroid gland, and just below that is the thymus. It's in the upper part of the mediastinum behind the sternum. So it is present in the upper part of the mediastinum and neck, just behind the sternum. It weighs just 10 to 15 grams, so very lightweight structure, very small at birth, and grows until the individual reaches puberty. Okay, so this thymus will be very small in case of children. It grows up to the puberty, that is 14 to 18 years. When it begins to atrophy, then it starts atrophying, and by the age of 25 years, it totally disappears. So it reaches the maximum size at puberty, and it is between 30 to 40 grams. So in case of the teenage group, it reaches maximum size of 30 to 40 grams. That's all. And by middle age, it has returned approximately to the weight at birth. So after reaching the maximum size, by middle age, it becomes totally atrophy, and it reaches the same size as that of the newborn, that is 10 to 15 grams. Now, if you study the structure, this is how it looks like. So it will have two lobes, just like that of the thyroid gland. So here is the thyroid gland. Just below that, you can see the thymus has two lobes. Okay, thymus consists of two lobes joined by the alar tissue. So both are joined by the fat. The lobes are enclosed by fibrous capsule. Just like other lymphatic organ, this is also lined by the capsule, fibrous capsule, where down dips into their substance, dividing them into lobes. As I said, this also gives rise to fibrous septa, okay, or trabeculae, and then divides the whole of the thymus into lobules that consist of irregular branching framework of epithelial cells and lymphocytes. Just like other organ, lymphatic organ, this also has huge quantity of lymphocytes. What is the function of the thymus gland? This plays a very important role. So the lymphocytes originate from the pluripotent stem cells in the red bone marrow. Those that enter the thymus develop into activated T lymphocytes. T lymphocytes are of two types, B and T. So those lymphocytes which enter the thymus and get mature, they are called as T lymphocyte. T stand for thymus. So it gives rise to a very important type of lymphocyte, that is called as the T lymphocytes, because it enters the thymus. The thymus processing produce mature T lymphocyte that can distinguish self tissue from foreign tissue. So it identifies the foreign tissue and also provides each T lymphocyte with the ability to react to only one specific antigen from millions it will encounter. So the T lymphocytes are very specific to each antigen, any foreign body. So each foreign body have a special lymphocyte which will fight it. So it produces specific type of T lymphocytes for each foreign body or antigen. Okay, that was about the thymus. Now coming to the tonsils, especially the palatine tonsil here. Okay. So the tonsils, these are nothing but the large cluster of lymphatic cells and the extracellular matrix that are not completely surrounded by connective tissue capsule. As we saw before, in case of the thymus, spleen, lymph node, they are well covered by capsule. But tonsil is such an organ where the capsule is not complete, not complete. Okay, so consist of multiple germinal centers and have invagination outer edge called as the crypts. If you see, especially the palatine tonsil, it will show depressions because it doesn't have a capsule here. So it will show depressions called as crypts. Crypts help in trapping the material and facilitate its identification by lymphocytes. As I said, the T lymphocytes are very specific to antigen, any foreign particle. So these foreign particles are trapped into this small crypts, and then helps in the identification of the specific antibodies, the lymphocytes which are produced against them. They form a protective ring around the pharynx. If you see here, there are tonsils around the nasal cavity and oral cavity. So they form a ring, which is called as the Walder's ring. Okay, so which is protective ring, because whenever we respire, it will contain bacteria. Whenever we eat food, it might contain bacteria, viruses. So to prevent that, this acts as the first line of defense mechanism. So which are those? It is not only the palatine tonsil, but the pharyngeal tonsil and lingual tonsil. So there are different tonsils. One is called as the pharyngeal tonsils, or also called as adenoids, are in the posterior wall of the nasopharynx. This is the nose behind us. This is called as the nasopharynx, and in the nasopharynx we can see the pharyngeal tonsil. Then palatine tonsil are in the posterolateral region of the oral cavity. If you see here, palatine tonsil on either side, we can see the palatine tonsil which are present in the oral cavity. Then lingual tonsil are along the posterior one third of the tongue. So this is the tongue here, anterior two thirds and posterior one third. The posterior one third is filled with lymphocytes, and that is called as the lingual tonsil. Lingual means tongue, and it acts as a tonsil because it has large quantity of the lymphocytes. So all these together, the pharyngeal tonsil, palatine tonsil and lingual tonsil form a ring that is called as the protective ring, that is also called as the Walde's ring. Finally, coming to the lymphatic nodules, which are not organs, but they are just collection of the lymphocyte. These are called as the lymphatic nodules. These are oval clusters of lymphatic cells with some extracellular matrix that are not surrounded by any connective tissue capsule. Usually, the lymphatic organs are covered by the lymphatic capsule. So always there will be a capsule. But in case of lymphatic organs, they are just diffuse lymphocytes. Okay, they are not covered by any capsule. Okay, so they will also do the same function of filtering and attacking any kind of foreign particles, antigens. In some areas of the body, many lymphatic nodules group together to form the large structures such as the MALT, mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. In case of, especially in case of the respiratory system and the gut, now the digestive system, there are lymphatic tissues. Okay, these are called as the mucosa. Wherever there is mucosa, in case of the digestive system, there is mucosa inside. In respiratory system, there is mucosa. So wherever there is mucosa, they are not organs, but diffuse lymphocytes are uh, distributed everywhere, and they together they are called as mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, called as the MALT. Similarly, as I said, it is present in the digestive system, especially in the small intestine. We have seen the small intestine, especially in the part of the ileum of the small intestine. Small intestine has three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. So in the ileum, they form specific patches. They are called as Peyer's patches. This is very important in case of the typhoid fever, where these Peyer's patches get infected. Okay, so they are nothing but the aggregation of the lymphocytes. So they don't form an organ like the thymus, spleen, or lymph node, but they are just widely distributed as Peyer's patches. Similarly, even in case of the ileum as well as the appendix also, we can see huge aggregation of the lymphocytes. Now finally coming to the clinical importance, how these are clinically important. Okay, so especially these lymphatic vessels, I said the lymphatic vessels are so small that cannot be seen, but these vessels, because they are so small, they are also prone for obstruction, especially caused by certain worms, which leads to a condition called as elephantiasis. You see here, this looks, this is a person having elephantiasis. This is because of the blockage of the lymphatic vessels. If you see here, this is a normal foot, but here this is the elephantiasis. It looks like the foot of an elephant, so that's why it is called as elephantiasis. Okay, so elephantiasis, where the foot looks like a elephant. It is not only seen in case of the foot; it can be seen even in the scrotum. So which leads to elephantiasis of the scrotum. Okay. Sometimes the lymphatic vessels are not only blocked by worms, which leads to elephantiasis. They can also be blocked by certain cancers. Like in case of the breast, there is a condition called as PUD orange. where the breast looks like an orange. Okay, this is because of the obstruction of the lymphatic vessels. Okay, so these are some of the examples where the lymphatic vessels have played an important role clinically, like elephantiasis of the scrotum, or PUD orange, where the lymphatic obstruction is seen. Okay, so these are some of the important clinical aspects related to this part. Okay, so this is all about the lymphatic system. So if you have any questions, you can ask me.